By the third year of deceiving, scheming, and seducing Asher Hunt, the CEO of Hunt Enterprises, I was pregnant. They say Asher Hunt is lofty and indifferent, incapable of tolerating a pregnant mistress. So, I ran away in the middle of the night, baby bump and all. He turned New York City upside down, searching for me, but couldn't find a trace. When I was forced to return home, Asher Hunt suddenly appeared. Gripping my neck, his voice was icy. "Summer Clark, you still dare to come back?" My daughter, beaming with excitement, wrapped her arms around his leg and declared, "Mommy, I found myself a daddy." "Oh, sweet girl, how did you manage to bring your biological father right to us?" I was Asher Hunt's pampered mistress, kept secretly by the CEO of Hunt Enterprises. He was a cold and distant man. And he never cared about me. The only time I could feel him lose even the slightest control was in the confines of the bedroom. And yet, I was the only mistress had ever kept for 3 whole years. Staring at the pregnancy report in my hand, I clenched my fist. When I heard Asher was at a bar, I rushed over immediately, eager to tell him about the pregnancy. The private booth in the bar was quiet. As I pushed open the door, I caught the tail end of a conversation inside. It was his best friend speaking. "Your parents have already found you a match, a second daughter from the Austin family. She's beautiful. Why not just go along with it?" Asher's voice was indifferent as he raised his gaze slightly. "If you like her that much, you marry her." His friend chuckled, shaking his head. "Asher, what's so great about that mistress of yours? Has she really bewitched you?" I held my breath, hoping for his answer. But Asher said nothing. His friend continued teasing, "If that mistress of yours got pregnant." Before he could finish, Asher set his glass down, his voice sharp and frigid. "I've taken precautions. She won't get pregnant. And she can't get pregnant." His friend smirked. "But what if she did? Would you make her get rid of it?" Asher didn't respond. I felt like I'd plunged into an icy abyss. How could I have forgotten? Asher was always meticulous about contraception. He could never tolerate a pregnant mistress. Turning away, I shredded the pregnancy report in my hand into tiny pieces. A bitter laugh escaped me. For a fleeting moment, I had actually thought he might look forward to the arrival of this child. It wasn't until much later that I learned someone had insulted me in that booth after I left. Asher, his face cold as ice, shattered a glass in his grip. That night, Asher didn't come home. I had a nightmare. In it, Asher was gripping my neck, his gaze bloodthirsty and cruel. "Do you know what you are? A plaything. How dare you think you're fit to bear my child?" I struggled to breathe, my face flushed red as his cold, unfeeling expression burned itself into my mind. I woke up with a start, gasping for air. Realizing it had been a dream, I exhaled in relief. But as the memory of the nightmare lingered, I reminded myself of one undeniable truth: Asher Hunt wasn't the dignified, aloof man he appeared to be. He was, and always had been, a cold-blooded and ruthless monster. 3 years ago, Asher had been drugged with a hallucinogen. When he regained consciousness, I lied to him, claiming he had assaulted me. In exchange, I demanded his protection for 3 years. In reality, I had knocked him unconscious that night. All I wanted was a place to call home. The price of setting him up? I nearly lost my life. I thought I would be afraid of him. But over time, I fell in love with him. The ridiculous part was, during those years, his indulgence made me entertain a foolish fantasy, the idea of marrying him, having children, and living an ordinary life. Now, it's time to wake up from that dream. I placed a hand on my abdomen. This child was now my only family in the world. I couldn't let Asher know about the baby. I couldn't let him take away this child's right to be born. I called Asher's sworn rival, Ethan Carter. He chuckled softly. "Summer Clark. You finally called me." I went straight to the point. "Take me away to somewhere Asher can't find me." Ethan kept his promise and provided a way for me to slip past Asher's watchful eyes and leave the country. But there was one condition. I needed to distract Asher for an hour. That 1 hour would be my window to escape. I asked him why he couldn't come up with a pretext to keep Asher occupied himself. He fell silent for a moment before laughing suddenly. Summer, I still need to stay alive after you're gone. If Asher finds out I helped you escape, he'll come after me, and when my dad hears about it, I'm as good as dead." I pressed my lips together. Maybe Asher wouldn't bother coming after you for me. After all, I was just a mistress dispensable. I had stolen these 3 years through underhanded means. He let out a cryptic laugh. Who knows? I made him promise never to tell Asher where I was after I left. Ethan just laughed for a long time before finally agreeing. Something about his response felt off. But I quickly brushed aside the unease. Asher had always treated me generously. I had access to his cards, could buy anything I wanted, and lacked for nothing. If it were just me, I wouldn't take a thing. But now, with the baby, I had to think for her. Using the cards Asher gave me, I spent millions in various stores over time. I made arrangements with the shop owners, promising each a commission of $10,000 in exchange for converting the purchases into cash for me. When Asher received alerts about the spending, he called. His tone was as calm and indifferent as ever. "Is there something you need? I'll have my assistant, David, handle it." I felt guilty. No need, I was just buying random things. He made a sound of acknowledgement, as if he'd only asked out of idle curiosity. Out of nowhere, I found the courage to ask, "Asher, am I just a game to you?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I froze. When I didn't hear a response, I panicked and quickly added, "Forget it, I was just joking," before hanging up immediately. Time passed, and everything was set. When Asher returned, I was unusually enthusiastic. I clung to him, pressing kisses along his jaw, searching for his lips, before kissing him there too. His hand tightened around my waist, his breathing deepening. Just before things went further, I stopped him. I told him I was on my period. The lust in his eyes faded as his large hand rested on my abdomen. His brows furrowed. "Your cycle came early? It's been irregular lately. I'll take you to the hospital tomorrow." My heart raced, and my face warmed as I hastily declined. I wasn't someone who openly expressed my feelings, and neither was he. But today, I just wanted to cling to him, craving his kisses, his attention, his care. "I'm craving the blueberry pie from that stall in West Side Market," I murmured. "I'll have David buy it," he replied. No, I kissed him again, looking up at him with wide, pleading eyes. "I want you to get it. The shop might be closing soon. And I really want it tonight." His body stiffened slightly, unaccustomed to this side of me. When our gazes met, it seemed like he was searching for something in my expression. I blinked at him again, wide-eyed. He let out a faint sigh. "Fine," I added, "and remember to be polite. Don't scare the shopkeeper." He responded again, "All right." Asher had never bothered assigning someone to keep an eye on me. As soon as he left, I called Ethan. Before leaving, I scheduled a message to Asher. "Asher, it's over. Our 3 years are up. I won't cling to you anymore." By the time he received the message, I would already be long gone. I was insane to even entertain the thought that Asher might go mad trying to find me. Ethan didn't know why I was leaving, but he gave me a parting piece of advice: "If you're going, don't come back. Asher's a lunatic. If he finds out you tricked him and dared to return, he just might kill you." And yet, 4 years later, I came back. 4 years later, I stood at the airport, boarding a flight back home. After landing, I stopped by the restroom. When I came out, my daughter Lily was waiting, grinning ear to ear. "Mommy, I just found myself a handsome daddy." I laughed it off as a joke. I hadn't told anyone about my return, except my best friend Susan. Lily and I were staying at her place for the time being. Over the past few years abroad, I'd built my own career and had become a moderately well-known fashion designer. This trip back served 2 purposes. First, I had been invited to attend Fashion Week. Second, I had recently discovered that I might have a younger sister. Apart from my daughter, there was someone else in this world connected to me by blood. So I took the risk and returned to New York City. 4 years ago, I had stumbled upon a photo someone had taken. Asher was standing in line on a street corner, waiting for food. There was a faint smile on his lips, and in his hand was a box of blueberry pie. The internet was abuzz with disbelief. Asher Hunt, in the grungy downtown district? The germaphobe who avoided anything remotely unsanitary? I still have that photo saved on my phone. The next time I heard about him was through the overwhelming media coverage of his meteoric success, leading Hunt Enterprises to global dominance. He wasn't alone in the spotlight. Beside him was the elegant darling of the Austen family, a woman adored by all. Asher had always been the center of attention, but now, the gulf between us was unbridgeable. Susan once asked if I still had feelings for Asher. I shook my head, denying it. My dream had ended long ago. As soon as I returned, I began looking into my sister's whereabouts. On the day I was to attend Fashion Week, I dropped Lily off at daycare. At the event, I took my seat in the audience. When it was my turn to speak, the spotlight illuminated me. The host asked about the inspiration behind my collection. Summer Holiday is a project I worked on for 3 years, I began confidently. It was during one particularly vibrant summer. I spoke fluently, fully immersed in recounting my creative process. Then, I felt a piercing, oppressive gaze locking onto me. It wasn't until then that I noticed the VIP balcony on the second floor. A familiar silhouette loomed in the shadows. He had been watching me, I didn't know for how long. His dark eyes were frigid and emotionless, like those of a predator stalking from the darkness, glinting with a sharp, dangerous light. My body stiffened. I didn't even register what the host said next or how I responded. When I finally escaped to the backstage lounge, my entire body relaxed. But as I turned around, a warm, powerful hand shot out of nowhere and clamped around my neck. That faint, familiar scent of wood and spice hit me instantly. His sinister, bloodthirsty voice chilled me to the core. "Summer, you dare come back?" His eyes burned with obsession, madness, and the faintest trace of crimson rage. He really was a lunatic. The pressure on my neck tightened as he murmured, "I could kill you right now." And he had every reason to hate me. Asher was the kind of man the world revolved around. The sole heir to the Hunt family fortune. He had spent the past few years riding wave after wave of success. And I was the only person who had dared to toy with him. My face flushed red as I coughed violently, tears streaming from the sheer force. But no matter how I struggled, I couldn't escape his iron grip. His dark eyes bore down on me, scrutinizing my expression. His other hand, calm and deliberate, wiped away the tears pooling at the corners of my eyes. Just as his grip loosened, he suddenly leaned down and kissed me fiercely. It was hot and intense, as if he was making up for the 4 years of absence in one breath. My heart raced uncontrollably, my mind going completely blank. Instinctively, I reached out and wrapped my arms around his neck, returning his kiss. The atmosphere turned strangely charged. A knock on the door shattered the moment. "Miss Clark, a few reporters are outside hoping to conduct an unknown interview with you. Are you available?" I snapped back to reality, quickly pushing him away. He grabbed my chin, a mocking glint in his dark eyes. "Do you think those reporters know that the designer they're about to interview was just kissing me senseless through this door?" I didn't know what was wrong with me. Maybe it had been too long since I'd seen Asher, and my body was reacting to some kind of hormonal surge, making me crave him. Almost unconsciously, my hand brushed against his abs. I don't know," I stammered, barely managing a reply. The moment those words left my lips, clarity returned like a lightning strike. I withdrew my hand immediately. But Asher was faster. He caught my fleeing hand effortlessly. His breath deepened, and his expression grew darker, colder, unreadable. Panicking, I glanced toward the door, afraid someone outside might notice. "Asher? Are you crazy?" I hissed. He let out a cold laugh. "You're the one who touched me first, Summer. So, who's really the crazy one here?" I didn't respond. And he continued, his voice low, "I must be insane, letting you kiss me endlessly, letting you touch me, and actually wanting more." His words unsettled me, and I pressed myself tighter against the door, one hand creeping toward the handle. A soft chuckle from above stopped me in my tracks, sending alarm bells ringing in my head. Leisurely, he lifted my hand and pressed it back onto his abs. His muscles felt harder than I remembered. More defined. Before, had already been capable of exhausting me during our nights together. Now. My thoughts spiraled out of control, and my face burned bright red. Blushing already? What will you do later? He taunted. If you've touched me, you'd better do it properly this time. I looked at him warily. I've touched enough. Who said you've touched enough? You stop when I say so. He easily derailed my train of thought. What about the reporters outside? His gaze turned icy. Let them wait. I hesitated, then asked, don't you hate me? I do. I even want to kill you. His voice was disturbingly calm. But I've realized there are other ways to make you suffer. What other ways? His warm hand fell to my waist, gripping it firmly. His other hand slid to my thigh, lifting me effortlessly as he pressed me against the door. I was about to cry out when he raised a finger to his lips. His eyes were devoid of warmth as he whispered, don't make a sound if you don't want them to hear, because I'm not stopping. He wasn't just unpredictable anymore, he was downright unhinged. Much later, I noticed a bite mark on my neck. It was deliberate. His dark gaze lingered on the mark. Stormy and brooding. Pain is good. It'll make it harder for you to forget. That was exactly it. He was cruel and relentless, because he wanted to ensure I wouldn't forget. And when it was over, he flipped a switch. The warmth in his eyes disappeared, replaced by his usual cold, distant demeanor. I clearly saw his steps falter for a moment. He asked me, summer holiday, who was it created for, but the question stopped abruptly. He turned and left. And only then did my racing heart start to steady. It was then I noticed several missed calls and messages from the event staff. I quickly apologized, claiming I hadn't been feeling well and had fallen asleep in the lounge. They didn't press further. When I stepped outside to hail a cab, I suddenly noticed a familiar figure standing at the intersection. It was David, Asher's assistant. 4 years had passed, and he seemed even more reticent than before. When he approached, he spoke just one cold, clipped sentence, Mr. Hunt can only maintain his sanity with medication. Out of selfishness, I hope you can help him. If not, then I hope you will never appear in his line of sight again, as his condition may spiral out of control. It was then I learned that Asher was sick. And it wasn't a minor illness. I found my sister. I even met her in person. Her name was Riley, and her style leaned towards androgynous fashion. She bore a faint resemblance to me, sharing a few similar features. But she resisted acknowledging our relationship, her expression awkward and defensive. She worked part-time every day. So I gave her a card and tried to look after her as much as I could. I had never felt the warmth of family, but I wanted my sister to experience it. Lately, though, I'd been swamped. Every time we met, I had to leave before long. One day, a company collaborating with me sent an agent to invite me to a gala. The attendees were all influential figures, people of wealth and status. The agent urged me to network at the event, saying it would help secure sponsorships for my future fashion shows. I nodded in agreement. What I hadn't anticipated was that many of the attendees were people I already knew. The agent introduced me to them, prompting me to toast them one by one. Flattering words spilled from their lips, trying to please these people and coax them into investing. I kept a polite smile, raising my glass and toasting each person in turn. They looked at me with mockery and amusement. When I toasted one particular man, he suddenly exclaimed, "So it's Miss Clark. It's been years. How have you fallen so far that you're reduced to being a mere waiter serving drinks for us?" "Indeed," I replied calmly, my smile unwavering. "Not as impressive as all you gentlemen's promising futures." I didn't want to make enemies or create trouble for myself or the agent. The man, however, smirked maliciously and added, "Why does it look like your breasts has gotten bigger since back then?" Suddenly, an arm draped over my shoulders. Startled, I looked up and saw a face that was both strikingly ambiguous in gender and bore a faint resemblance to mine. It was Riley, my sister. She fixed a cold glare on the man who had spoken, her voice sharp and cutting. You look so pitiful, insecure, and sensitive. What does her breasts have to do with you? Instead of ogling someone else's body, why don't you visit a doctor and figure out what can be done about your small dick? I couldn't help but burst into laughter. She stepped in front of me protectively. The man's face turned a hideous shade, shifting between red and black like a painter's palette. His smile grew sinister. Oh? So after leaving Asher Hunt, you've latched onto this frail, sickly little mouse? If you come to my hotel tonight and make me happy, I might even throw some money your way to squander. As he spoke, he reached out to grab me. The surrounding crowd erupted in cheers, clearly entertained by the scene. Many of them were familiar faces, people I had encountered years ago when I was still with Asher. Back then, these people had gone out of their way to get close to Asher, belittling and mocking me at every opportunity. Some people had tried to insult me, hire thugs to beat me, or tame me with humiliation. But in the end, they either got beaten by me or ended up being taught a painful lesson by someone Asher sent. The pain they endured wasn't just physical, their companies suffered too. None of them dared harbor resentment against Asher. Now that I was no longer under his protection, they saw me as an easy target, someone with no backing to bully. This wasn't a deal worth pursuing anymore. In the blink of an eye, I raised my hand and slapped the man hard across the face. The crowd fell silent. The man, stunned for a moment, recovered quickly and was about to kick me. Before I could react, an arm wrapped around my waist, lifting me off the ground as I was spun around. A familiar figure stepped forward and, without hesitation, kicked the man square in the chest, sending him sprawling to the floor. In a voice cold enough to freeze the room, Asher asked the man, "Are you satisfied now?" The room erupted into chaos. Everyone was dumbfounded, even my sister. No one had expected Asher to show up, let alone intervene. After all, the rumor mill had long since declared that Asher and I had parted ways, their feud irreconcilable. Asher set me down and turned to face me, his dark eyes scrutinizing me. Frowning slightly, he said, "Beg me. Only then will I save you." But I replied, confused, "Didn't you already save me?" For a split second, frustration flashed in his eyes, almost as if he regretted his actions. Riley leaned in and whispered, "Why didn't you tell me your boyfriend was this handsome?" Strangely, as soon as she said it, I noticed Asher's mood seemed to improve considerably. What I didn't realize was that my investment prospects from the event were secured after this incident. Word spread quickly among New York's elite: the mistress who had mysteriously vanished from Asher Hunt's side had returned. And not only that, but Asher Hunt had publicly defended her. My sister still refused to move in with me. She had been adopted by a loving family with harmonious relationships, and I was genuinely happy for her. After returning home, I stayed up all night combing through news articles about Asher. It was the only way to catch glimpses of the man he had become in the years I was gone. One particular headline captured my attention: Hunt Enterprises CEO goes berserk. Spends millions to turn New York City upside down. The accompanying video and photos were both captivating and unsettling. In the footage, Asher was still wearing the suit from the day I left. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept in days, and his expression was taut with unrelenting tension. The angle of the shot was excellent, capturing his impossibly handsome face. Even through the screen, his piercing gaze locked onto the camera, making the person behind it flinch. My heart skipped a beat. At his feet lay a box of blueberry pie and other snacks meant for me. For a time, news about Asher circulated frequently, only to disappear without a trace soon after. Rumors suggested he had used certain methods to suppress any coverage of his private life. Even articles that once speculated on a union between the Hunt and Austen families, painting Asher and the Austen family's princess as the perfect match, had vanished. David's words suddenly echoed in my mind. I typed Asher Hunt illness into the search bar, but found nothing. Just then, Lily wrapped her arms around me from behind. "Mommy, I saw that handsome uncle again today. He's the daddy I like the most." I smiled and played along, holding her as I took her to bed. It was strange. Lily looked so much like me, sharing almost no resemblance to Asher. Except for our shared mango allergy, she didn't inherit a single visible trait from him. But as I stepped out of Lily's room, Susan called for me from the living room. When I walked over, she stared at me in silence for a long time, before letting out a sigh. She said, "After you left, Asher came to find me." I immediately locked eyes with her, my heart racing. But his mental state at the time didn't seem good. He looked like he was holding back something dark. I was scared something might happen, so I insisted I didn't know where you'd gone. Still, there's something about him I know that no one else does. He has severe manic episodes now, and he suffers from chronic insomnia. Most of the time, he's barely holding on with the help of medication. Summer, if you still have feelings for him, I think you should be brave and go for it. Whether or not he loves you back isn't the point, what matters is what you want. If he doesn't care for you anymore, you lose nothing. I pressed my lips together, my eyes lighting up with a certainty that surprised even me. He still loves me. Asher has always been a germaphobe. When we first got together, I had to disinfect everything 3 times a day. Every intimate interaction had to be preceded by meticulous cleaning. But over time, he stopped disinfecting me. He only disinfected himself. Few people could get close to him, to adapt to life by his side. I became a germaphobe too. Maybe that's why I lasted as long as I did with him. But last time in the lounge, I didn't smell that familiar, sharp scent of disinfectant. He didn't clean anything before we, and this time, when he stepped in to defend me, the anger in his eyes had been intense, almost feral. Suddenly, my phone rang. The number was unlisted, but I recognized it. It was David's number. The moment I answered, his uncharacteristically frantic voice came through. "Miss Clark, Mr. Hunt is having an episode this time, it's serious." My voice came out hoarse. "He's sick. Call a doctor." David replied, "But Mr. Hunt keeps calling your name. He won't let anyone near him. And he's burning up with a fever." "Then call the Austen family," I said coldly. "Why would I call them? The news says the Hunts and Austens are set to merge through marriage, doesn't it?" David's tone grew desperate, as if I'd unleashed a beast upon him. "That's just a rumor. Mr. Hunt has no relationship with the Austens at all." My palms grew clammy, and the indecision that had plagued me moments ago evaporated like smoke. I realized clearly I still loved Asher. I had never stopped. And so, I went to him. The sound of shattering objects and terrified screams greeted me as I approached the villa. Chaos. Total chaos. Outside, a crowd of servants stood hesitantly, whispering to each other but not daring to enter. When they saw me, their faces lit up with hope and relief. "Miss Clark, you're finally here. Mr. Hunt is inside." I came because I couldn't ignore him. But shouldn't the priority for his episode be to find a doctor? Why were they looking at me like I was some kind of savior? Before I could process it, I was ushered to the villa's entrance, my feet barely touching the ground. That's when I smelled a blood. Inside, David and a team of bodyguards were trying to contain Asher. He was completely unhinged. His bloodshot eyes and overwhelming aura radiated pure violence. No one dared approach him. This was a side of Asher I had never seen before, a terrifying force of destruction. He had one hand clamped around a bodyguard's neck while another lay unconscious at his feet, alongside several others who had already been taken down. David spotted me, and his expression shifted sharply. "You didn't bring the serum? Get out now. Shut the door behind you. Mr. Hunt has completely lost his mind." But it was too late. Somehow, Asher's gaze had found me. His pitch-black eyes locked onto mine, unwavering, and the chaos around us seemed to freeze. Asher's grip suddenly loosened, and the bodyguard collapsed to the ground. But Asher didn't move. He just stood there, staring at me intently, like a little puppy. I didn't know why my mind chose to compare him to a puppy at that moment. Instinctively, I reached out a hand toward him, tentatively asking, "Do you want to come over?" Like a scolded pup catching sight of its owner, his head lowered, his defiant aura softening. He obediently walked over to me. After a moment of hesitation, I hugged him. His body was burning hot. Worried, I reached out to feel his forehead. He leaned into my palm, rubbing his fevered head against it. Summer, summer, he repeated my name over and over. Not far away, David stood frozen, staring at us with a look of disbelief. Before long, though, he approached with a syringe in hand and quickly injected it into Asher's arm. Meeting David's gaze, I asked, "What did you just give him?" "It's okay," he replied in his usual calm tone. "This medication works quickly." Together, we helped Asher into his bedroom. As I stepped out to fetch him some water, I found myself stopping at the door to his study. Asher had never liked me entering his study when I was his mistress. Back then, I relied on him just to have a safe place to stay in New York City. But now, there was nothing between us. I felt a sudden urge to see what he had been keeping hidden in his study all this time. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. What I saw stopped me in my tracks. The walls were covered with photos of me. Some were from years ago, back when I was still living in the country. But most of them were recent snapshots of my life abroad over the past 4 years. A storm of emotions churned in my chest. I had never imagined this possibility. Asher had always known where I was. He had known everything about my life overseas. Yet, he had never come to find me. I didn't understand. He should have hated me for deceiving him, for running away. He should have wanted me dead. A knock at the door startled me. I turned to see David standing there. "Hunt doesn't dare to see you," he said. Why not?" "Because he believes you hate him. That you want nothing to do with him. Hunt doesn't want to disturb you." "Anne?" David hesitated. "He thinks you had a child with Ethan." His words conjured an image in my mind of Asher's life over the past few years. Staring at the photos of me on his wall, refusing updates from his people about my latest activities, yet unable to stop himself from hanging picture after picture until they covered the entire room. When he learned of Lily's existence, he didn't even dare to suspect she might be his child. Instead, he sent someone to beat Ethan to a pulp. Poor Ethan, it was an unjust punishment. When I gave birth to Lily, I was 2 weeks past my due date, but I had publicly claimed she was born a month early. From any angle, the timing made it impossible for Lily to be his child. So it wasn't surprising he believed the story. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a sliver of fabric peeking around the doorway. I smiled to myself. Asher, after all these years, had become so childish. I didn't call him out. Instead, I poured him a glass of water and brought it into his room. Asher slowly sat up, and I helped him drink. He sipped the water quietly, then leaned against me with a fragile air. It felt strange. To me, Asher had always been an unshakable figure, tall, strong, and impervious to hardship. Then he spoke softly, "You're here, and my sanity came back with you." "Summer, I'm sick. Very sick." It was then I realized, Asher hadn't fallen ill after I left. He had been sick all along. My leaving had only made it worse, pushing his illness to the point where it became uncontrollable. Now he had to rely on specially formulated medication to keep himself in check. And yet, he had kept all of this from me. When Asher's manic episodes flare up, he truly loses control, often hurting many people in the process. That's why the villa always keeps iron chains on hand for restraining him during his episodes. All these things he had painstakingly hidden from me before were now flooding out like a tide, revealing themselves in the rawest form. He was doing it on purpose. On purpose, he was exposing his weaknesses to me, peeling back the bloodied scars he had kept hidden for so long. In the past, he never let me see any of this, because he didn't want to appear vulnerable in front of me. He didn't want my pity. Now, his damp hair clung to his forehead, sweat-soaked, his pale face marked by exhaustion. His deep black eyes carried a rare fragility, a helplessness I had never seen before. He rested his head lightly against my neck and murmured, "Summer, feel sorry for me just a little." He was still the same Asher Hunt. But now, he was even more calculating. After a moment of silence, I suddenly asked, "Do you dislike children?" He paused for a beat before replying, "I hate them very much." I didn't respond to him that night. I left hurriedly after he fell asleep. Lily was my priority now. I wouldn't give up Lily for anyone, not even Asher. My mother had died of severe blood loss while giving birth to my sister. My father quickly remarried, claiming my sister had also died. But in truth, he abandoned her. The only reason he kept me was because I was older and could do housework, following orders without complaint. Later, my father became addicted to gambling and lost everything. My stepmother divorced him, taking their child with her. In the end, my father sold me to a casino owner. The night he sent me to the casino owner's bed, I ran away. My eyes landed on Asher. I had seen him before, but I never expected that, by chance, he had also been set up that night. Someone had tried to send a woman to his side. And that woman turned out to be me. From the beginning, all I ever wanted was family. I didn't know how to reconnect with Asher. I worried that my presence might worsen his condition. So, when Ethan invited me out for dinner, I agreed, hoping to ask him about Asher and those photos. I asked if Asher had sought him out after I left. Ethan's expression darkened. "Not long after you left, he went crazy searching all over New York for you. Then he quickly figured out that I helped you escape. He brought a gang of men and beat me to a pulp. I was bedridden for a month." I felt genuinely sorry. "Didn't your family step in to deal with Asher?" His face grew even darker. "They did. They sent more men to fight him. When they found out I stole Asher's mistress, they were so furious, they almost erased me from the family." I awkwardly laughed and poured him another drink, adding a few gifts as a gesture of apology. As Ethan drove me home, he said a few words that stuck with me. "I'm a bad guy, Summer." So yeah. I enjoyed watching Asher spiral and suffer. But let me tell you this, you are the person he cares about the most. I know my brother. The way he looks at you, I can't be wrong. I froze, stunned. His gaze shifted to something behind me, and he suddenly smirked, reaching out to ruffle my hair. "Kind-hearted people like me are hard to come by. I'll leave it at that. You figure out the rest on your own." His words left me deep in thought as I reached the front of my building. Just as I was about to go inside, a pair of strong hands wrapped around me from behind, pressing my back against a hard chest. That familiar scent washed over me, unmistakable. A hand tilted my chin, forcing me to turn my head. The man behind me leaned in and captured my lips in a searing kiss. I heard his dark, chilling voice whisper behind me, each word slow and deliberate, "Summer, you care about everyone else, but not even a little about me. Was Summer Holiday created because you liked me, or because you wanted to let me go?" "Summer, I'm a complete lunatic." "Do you know what a lunatic wants to hear?" I shook my head, took his face in my hands, and rose onto my tiptoes. Leaning in, I kissed him gently and looked into his eyes, my gaze bright and steady. "I like you." His body froze, stunned. He stared at me in disbelief, his voice trembling. "What did you just say?" Meeting his gaze, I replied earnestly, "Asher, I think I still like you." His eyes wavered, and he lowered his head, about to kiss me again. But just then, a small figure darted out from the house and wrapped their arms around his leg. A sweet, childish voice rang out, "Uncle, you're here." "Mommy, this is the daddy I found for myself." "Oh, my sweet daughter, how did you manage to bring your real dad back to us? He's really rich. And he treats Lily so well. He doesn't even have a girlfriend. I like this daddy, Mommy, hurry up and make him yours." Asher's expression turned cold, his face darkening further. "Summer, what do you take me for? You think a casual "I like you" is enough to make me play stepdad to your kid?" I couldn't help but laugh. Asher had investigated me for so long, keeping tabs on my life abroad. Surely, he must know I hadn't been in any relationships while I was away. At most, a few people had tried pursuing me, but the only man who could have gotten me pregnant was him. Lily blinked her big, bright eyes, her gaze darting mischievously between us. Then she leaned in and whispered conspiratorially, "Mommy, hurry up and lock in my new daddy." What's in his heart is sometimes different from what's on his lips, so don't listen to what he says. Even Lily had seen through his facade, and I couldn't hold back my laughter. Squatting down, I gently told Lily to go back inside and wait for me. Once she left, Asher finally spoke. His tone subdued. Does it hurt? I was momentarily stunned. He stared at me intently. When you gave birth, why wasn't the man who got you pregnant by your side? I finally understood what he meant. Was he really so special that you went abroad, risking everything, just to have his child? I asked, what risk? He hesitated for a moment, then revealed the truth. Your mother died of postpartum hemorrhage. I didn't want you to face that kind of danger. If it had been me, I wouldn't have let you go through that. A strange, absurd feeling rose in my chest. My throat tightened, and it was hard to speak. After a long pause, I finally said, do you know when Lily was born? March 21st, 2019. He replied without hesitation. I was shocked at how clearly he remembered. But then I shook my head. Not March, it was February 8th. I deliberately hid it from you. His expression froze, and he fell silent, processing my words. Then his gaze sharpened as he stared at me, his voice trembling. Lily? I nodded. Lily is our child. There's no one else. From the beginning, I've only ever loved you. You don't need my pity, Asher. Because I've always loved you. That has never changed. I told him about the conversation I overheard between him and his friend that day, and so much more. Finally, I lowered my head and grabbed his hand, intertwining my fingers with his. Then I looked up and met his gaze. Can we get back together? He tightened his grip on my hand, his fingers trembling slightly as he replied, I've been waiting for those words. For a very long time. I remember his final words. He said it was the first time his friend had brought up such a topic in front of him, but he hadn't expected it to drive me away. His regret wasn't momentary, it gnawed at him day and night for years. But I regretted it too. Regretted being so young and afraid of boldly expressing my love. When Asher found out, it was my good friend Susan who encouraged me to take that step. He directly gifted her an entire company. Susan couldn't stop smiling for a whole month. Panicked, she asked, what if I don't know how to run a company? Asher replied nonchalantly, if you bankrupt it, I'll give you another one. If you have any questions, just come to our company's legal department. As for me, I became the largest shareholder of Hunt Enterprises. After Susan fell under Asher's charm. She didn't hesitate to kick me and Lily out of her place. Naturally, we moved into Asher's villa. At the villa, Asher and Lily sat across from each other, both wearing serious expressions. Asher asked, where's your dad? Lily, looking a bit aggrieved, replied, my mom said I don't have a dad. My dad went far, far away. And my dad is a bad guy, he always bullied mommy. But I like you a lot, so can you be my new dad? But you'll have to pass my mommy's test first, or I won't accept you. My scalp tingled, and I quickly pulled Lily into my arms. It took me half a day to explain that she actually did have a dad, and it was Asher. I explained that her dad hadn't abandoned us on purpose. I explained all the misunderstandings between us. Lily listened quietly, her face serious, and finally said, okay, but from now on, both Daddy and Mommy have to tell me they love me every day. Once the misunderstandings were cleared, her smile was like a little sun lighting up the room. Now I have a dad. Just like all the other kids. I often visited my sister, bringing her food and taking care of her. At first, she was uncomfortable with my attention, but slowly she opened up and began to accept me. One day, out of nowhere, she suddenly asked me, oh no. Did I fall into your trap? I laughed, knowing she was talking about how often I asked her to babysit Lily for free. But Lily was such a sweet and clever child that even my sister's adoptive family adored her. Everyone got along so well it felt like pure happiness. I had always thought that Asher's background and mine were worlds apart, and the Hunt family would never approve of us being together. But to my surprise, when they met me, they said, how wonderful, after all this time, it still comes back to the two of you. That's when I found out that, 4 years ago, Asher had already told his family he intended to marry me. The Hunt family had long since been won over by him. One morning, I had a dream about blueberry pie. When I woke up, I groggily nudged Asher and mumbled, "Asher, I want some blueberry pie. Can you go get me some?" There was no response for a while. Confused, I opened my eyes, only to meet his dark, stormy gaze filled with panic. He spoke slowly, his tone chilling, "Are you thinking about leaving me again?" Only then did I remember this was the exact excuse I had used to send him away the last time I escaped. I quickly shook my head. No. I really want blueberry pie this time. Without saying a word, he got up, silently carried a drowsy Lily to the next room, and instructed David and the others to watch her. Then he returned, locking the door behind him in one fluid motion. His dark eyes fixed on me intensely. "It's time to settle the score from back then." With that, his large hand grabbed my ankle and pulled me toward him. I gasped in shock. Men, they never let anything go. But when I woke up again, I saw a massive diamond ring glittering on the ring finger of my right hand. The massive diamond on my finger nearly blinded me. Asher looked at me tenderly, a warm smile playing on his lips. "We've got a lifetime of debts to settle," he said softly. "Let's take our time."
According to David's later recollections, it all started shortly after Summer returned. When Mr. Hunt had an episode, my first instinct was to call his personal doctor. I told him, "I'll call the doctor and have him come immediately to check on you." But after I spoke, Mr. Hunt didn't respond. He just stared at me with unwavering intensity. His expression was serious. "I'm sick. I need someone to take care of me." I didn't quite understand and cautiously suggested, "I'll call your mother." He remained silent, his deep eyes clouded and unreadable. Hesitating, I said, "Then should I call Miss Clark?" The moment the words left my mouth, Mr. Hunt finally looked away. He said, "I'm very ill. I need someone to take care of me right away." That's when it all clicked for me. My mind instantly cleared, and I wasted no time dialing the number ID found for Miss Clark. "Miss Clark, Mr. Hunt is having an episode. This time, it's very serious." Mr. Hunt nodded in satisfaction. When Summer mentioned the Austin family during our call, I quickly explained the situation. I knew it, another raise was coming my way. "Oh, by the way, Summer's sister Riley? That was Mr. Hunt's doing as well. When he found out about her, he arranged for the information to be subtly leaked to Summer's close friend. But days passed, and there was no movement from abroad. That day, Mr. Hunt spent the entire afternoon sitting rigidly in the living room, his face cold as stone. Finally, with a sigh of apparent mercy, he said, "Forget it. If her sister's news isn't working, let's spread rumors that I'm gravely ill." Before he could finish, my phone rang. It was Summer. She had returned to the country.